In this simulation video, we'll be taking a look at how to install the 5.5-inch or 140mm single beam to post bracket for our Evolution steel framing product. Before we get started, here's a list of the recommended tools and safety equipment you'll want to have on hand when working with our Evolution steel framing product. Know that all posts must be temporarily braced until fully stabilized and permanently connected with framing or other structural members. For deck frames, this means that all beams, joists, hangers, and any blocking that shores up the structure should be in place before the bracing can be removed. In short, the deck frame should be fully assembled and secured first before bracing is removed from the assembly. Let's get started with the bracket installation process, starting from the point after the ledgers were mounted and the concrete has cured around the post. First, make sure you have the brackets and 28 of our Evolution self-tapping screws on hand for each post-to-beam connection point. The bracket assembly comes with 2 clamshell pieces and a post cap piece. Note the 2 pieces need to be installed on specific sides of the post. The clamshell post cover piece needs to be on the back side of the post or the side facing the structure, while our flush mount clamshell will be installed on the outer side of the post or side facing away from the deck. The post cap piece is installed with the flush mount clamshell, which we'll demonstrate here in a moment. Let's first grab the post cover clamshell and mount it tight against the back side of the post facing the structure. We'll use 7 of the self-tapping screws to attach the bottom section of the clamshell to the post. After that, you'll need to add the post cap piece to the flush mount clamshell piece as shown here. You'll take the combined 2 pieces and mount them tight against the front side of the post. The cap piece should be all the way forward and the holes for the cap and flush mount bracket should align. Here again, you'll use 7 more of our Evolution self-tapping screws to secure the lower clamshell to the post. You can now repeat this process at all the other beam-to-post connection points. Once we have all brackets attached, we can now bring in our first cut-to-length Evolution beam and set it into our bracket slots, with the weep holes facing down. Note that this beam was cut to length, so that it would land exactly in the middle of a post-to-beam bracket connection point, which is one of the benefits of using a 5.5-inch post and bracket setup that allows end-to-end beam splicing over a post. So now that we have our beam seated in our brackets, one of the things we would recommend is using clamps to help keep the beam held in place while fastening it to each of the brackets. Clamp any connection points as needed, then proceed to connect the upper section of clamshell to the beam using Evolution self-tapping screws. You'll need 14 screws to fill in all the holes on each side of the bracket. If the clamp was preventing you from accessing some of the holes, remove it after installing screws in the holes that were accessible. Then add screws to those few remaining holes on each side. Repeat this process at any connection point along the beam. Note that on the end of the beam, you'll only be able to add screws in the parts of the bracket with the beam. This will now have us set to add the next beam in the run. Set the beam into place, butting it up against the first installed beam over the post. Also, remember to place it with the weep holes facing down and to use clamps to hold it if needed. With the beam in place, you can now install the remaining Evolution self-tapping screws into each side of the bracket. Doing this will complete the end-to-end beam splicing connection. This is one of the great benefits of this single beam-to-post bracket, as the required post capping piece under the beam is installed as part of the bracket system. And the even better part is that it utilized the existing hardware, requiring no additional screws to make the connection. You can utilize this connection process to finish out this run and any future runs where end-to-end splicing might be needed. Lastly, let's clarify that this is just a simulation build and that the number of posts needed and their spacing is subject to change for any given deck build. Fortress Building Products offers span and load charts via an online resource center listed here. These charts support a wide variety of build applications. Please reference this material along with any deck schematics or drawings for a particular build. Additionally, be sure to have a structural engineer verify that a build will meet span and load requirements as needed. For more information on our steel deck framing products, including where to buy, stop by our website at fortressbp.com/framing. And don't forget to check out our other Evolution steel framing videos as we continue to help our customers steal the show.